stared at the star chart on his display screen and frowned. Something was wrong. He had been working as a junior cartographer at the Galactic Concordance Central Navigation Hub for 3 months now, and every day he noticed the same strange thing. There was a huge blank space on every map he updated. The empty zone was marked with simple red letters: "Human territory, do not approach." Nothing else. No trade routes. No station markers. No colony listings. Just blank space where an entire species lived. Looked around the vast mapping room. Dozens of aliens from different species worked at their stations, updating charts and calculating routes. His supervisor and named walked past his desk on 6 legs. The antenna twitched as he moved. "Supervisor," called out, "I have a question about the human sector." The stopped moving, his compound eyes focused on, "What about it?" "Well, there's nothing on the map. No details at all. I'm supposed to update this sector, but there's no data to update. Is the information classified? Should I request access?" His antenna flattened against his head. It was a sign of nervousness in body language. "No, do not request access. The human sector remains unmarked by order of the Galactic Council." "But why? We have detailed maps of over 200 species territories. Even the warlike have their worlds mapped. Why not humans?" "Some questions are safer left unasked, young one." His voice became quieter. "Mark the sector as complete and move to the next assignment." Watched his supervisor hurry away. That was odd. Was usually patient and helpful. Why did a simple question about humans make him so uncomfortable? Over the next week, couldn't stop thinking about it. He started paying attention to mentions of humans around the station. There weren't many. The few humans who worked there kept to themselves, mostly in engineering and maintenance sections. No humans worked in command positions. No humans served as ambassadors or traders at this hub. During his lunch break, went to the station archives. He searched for information about human first contact. The basic facts were there. Humans had made contact with the Galactic Concordance 287 years ago. Initial meetings were peaceful. Humans established an embassy. Then, nothing. The records just stopped. He found plenty of information about other species. This first contact was documented across thousands of files. The aquatic had centuries of trade agreements logged. Even hostile species like the had extensive diplomatic records. But humans, just a handful of files marked historical record, first contact era, and then silence. Dug deeper, he found a curious pattern. Every 50 years or so, the Galactic Council held a closed session specifically about the human question. The records from these sessions were all sealed, classified at the highest level. "You're asking a lot of questions about humans." Jumped. A woman stood behind him wearing a station engineer's uniform. She was human. Her name badge read Engineering Maintenance. "I'm sorry," said. "I didn't mean to pry into anything sensitive. I'm a cartographer. I just noticed the maps have no information about your people's territory." Smiled. It seemed genuine. "It's okay. I'm not upset, just curious why you're curious." "It's strange, isn't it? Every other species has detailed charts, but your people, it's like the galaxy pretends you don't exist beyond a certain boundary." "I never really thought about it," said. She sat down next to him. "I grew up on a human colony world. I've worked on this station for 2 years. I know humans don't travel much in galactic space and aliens don't visit our worlds. I always figured it was just how things are." "Doesn't that seem odd to you?" Shrugged. "Maybe. But I'm an engineer, not a diplomat. I fix machines. I don't worry about politics." Looked at her carefully. She seemed honest, not hiding anything, just genuinely unbothered by the situation. "Have you ever wondered why no aliens visit Earth or your colony worlds?" "I guess I assumed we were boring," laughed. "Earth is nice, but it's just home, nothing special about it." Shook his head. "That's not how the galaxy works. Species visit each other constantly. Cultural exchanges, tourism, trade missions, but not humans. Why? Smile faded a little. You really want to know? Yes. Then maybe you should stop digging in public archives, she said quietly. You're going to trigger security alerts. Already might have. Are you threatening me? No, I'm trying to help you, stood up. If you really want answers, be careful how you look for them. The galaxy has its reasons for the way things are. Not everyone wants those reasons examined. She walked away, leaving alone with the archive terminal. That night couldn't sleep. He lay in his small quarters staring at the ceiling. His mind kept returning to the blank space on the maps, to nervous reaction, to warning. He made a decision. If the public archives wouldn't give him answers, he needed to access the restricted files. It took 3 days to plan. He studied the security systems. He learned which times had the monitoring. He used his cartographer credentials to request historical data, slowly working his way toward more classified materials. Finally, he found it, a file buried deep in the restricted archives. The Sol Quarantine Protocol Existential Threat Level 9. Had never seen a threat level that high. Level 5 was reserved for species-ending disasters. What could possibly rate a level 9? His hands shook as he opened the file. The document was heavily redacted. Black bars covered most of the text, but fragments remained. Cultural exchange resulted in unanimous vote. Containment rather than engagement deemed necessary. All species representatives agreed. For the safety of galactic civilization. One section wasn't redacted. It was a note from someone named Ambassador of the Collective, dated 273 years ago. After reviewing human historical records, artistic works, and educational materials, this delegation respectfully requests immediate extraction from Earth. The species displays concerning patterns in cultural development. Recommend minimal contact protocols. Full report to follow in classified channels. That was it. The file ended there. Sat back, his heart pounding. What had Ambassador seen on Earth that frightened him so much? What did humans show the galaxy that made everyone agree to keep them isolated? You found it. Spun around. Stood in the doorway of the archive room. Behind her was a human man in a military-style uniform. The man's name badge identified him as Captain. I told you to be careful, said. She didn't sound angry, just tired. Now we have to make a choice. Captain stepped forward. Is it? You've been looking for answers about why the maps end at human territory. You've accessed restricted files. You've read things most beings in the galaxy never see. His mouth was dry. Am I in trouble? That depends, said. You have 2 options. Option 1. We erase your access logs, you forget everything you've learned, and you go back to marking maps without questions. And option 2. Smiled, but it wasn't entirely friendly. Option 2. You come with us. You visit human space. You see Earth. You learn exactly why the galaxy decided to leave us alone. But understand this, once you know the truth, you can't unknow it. You'll carry that knowledge forever. Looked between and Captain. Every instinct told him to choose option 1, to forget, to stay safe. But he'd never been good at leaving questions unanswered. I want to know, said. I want to see for myself. Captain nodded slowly. Then pack your things. We leave for Earth in 6 hours, and I hope you're prepared for the answer. Most people aren't. The human ship was called the Steady Hand. Stood in the docking bay, watching it through the observation window. It looked different from other vessels docked at the station. Sleeker, more compact. Every surface seemed purposeful, like no space was wasted. Captain guided him through the airlock. Welcome aboard. The journey to Earth takes about 8 days. You'll have plenty of time to ask questions. The interior surprised. He expected military efficiency and cold metal. Instead, he found warm lighting and comfortable spaces. Crew members nodded at him as they passed. Everyone seemed relaxed. But something felt off. Noticed it gradually. Every corridor had emergency stations. The walls were thicker than necessary. Small details suggested this ship could become a fortress very quickly. Showed him to his quarters. The room was small but pleasant. Get settled. Captain wants to have dinner with you in a few hours. The crew is curious about you. Why? Asked. I'm just a cartographer. You're the first non-human to voluntarily enter human space in 250 years, said. That makes you special. After she left, explored his room. Everything worked efficiently. He found a computer terminal and tried to access the ship's library. To his surprise, it wasn't restricted. He could browse freely. He started reading human history files. Within minutes, he understood why Ambassador had requested extraction. Humans fought wars constantly, not small skirmishes, massive conflicts involving millions of soldiers. They invented increasingly terrible weapons to use against each other: chemical poisons, biological diseases, atomic bombs that could destroy entire cities. And they documented all of it, found photographs of destroyed cities, records of battles, statistical analysis of casualties. Humans kept careful records of every horror they inflicted on themselves. What disturbed him most was that these files were in the public section, labeled Basic Historical Education ages 12 and up. Human children learned this. A knock on his door made him jump. Captain stood outside, ready for dinner. The mess hall was crowded. About 20 crew members sat at various tables, eating and talking. The conversation stopped when entered. Everyone stared at him. Don't worry, said. They're just curious. We don't get many visitors. A young woman waved at them. Captain, bring your friend over here. Sat at the table. 3 other humans joined them, made introductions. This is that's ship's historian. And who does multiple jobs but officially is our communications officer. Grinned. So you're the brave cartographer. What made you want to visit Earth? I wanted to understand why the galaxy treats you differently, said carefully. Ah, the big question, leaned forward. Did you read any of our history yet? Some. Your wars are extensive. That's a polite way to put it, said. How much did you read? I started with the 20th century, the world wars. The humans exchanged glances, whistled softly. You jumped right into the deep end. Most aliens stop reading at that point. Why do you keep such detailed records? Asked. Most species try to forget their violent past. You seem to study it carefully. Captain set down his fork. Because forgetting is dangerous. If we don't understand what we're capable of, we might do it again. Humans spent thousands of years making the same mistakes over and over. Finally, we decided to learn from them. Your children study this in school. Yes, said. She was the historian, so she spoke with authority. Every human child learns about our wars, the good and the bad. We don't hide what we did. We teach it so the next generation understands the cost of violence. Try to process this, but doesn't that make them afraid or violent themselves? Sometimes, admitted, but mostly it makes them thoughtful. Human children grow up understanding that violence is easy, peace is hard. That lesson is worth the discomfort. Change the subject. Want to hear about Earth's wildlife? That's my specialty. Sure, said, grateful for lighter conversation. Earth is what we call a high gravity, dangerous weather, and the predators. Eyes lit up with enthusiasm. We have land predators that can run faster than most species' vehicles, ocean predators with thousands of teeth, flying predators that can spot prey from kilometers away. Even our plants can kill you. That sounds terrifying. It's beautiful, said. Life on Earth is competitive. Everything evolved to survive in a hostile environment, including humans. We're not the strongest or fastest, but we're persistent. We can run longer than almost any animal. We can survive in almost any climate. We adapt. Added, that's why the galaxy finds us concerning. We evolved on a world that tried to kill us constantly. We learned to work together to survive. We developed complex strategies for hunting, fighting, and problem-solving. Then we turned those skills on each other. But you stopped fighting, said. You have peace now, right? We have peace among ourselves, said. Mostly. We still have conflicts, but nothing like the old days. We learned that cooperation benefits everyone more than competition. Then why does the galaxy fear you? Spoke up for the first time. Because they saw our capacity for violence and assumed we'd use it on them. They didn't trust that we'd changed. The conversation continued through dinner. The humans were friendly and open. They answered every question asked, no matter how uncomfortable. They didn't seem ashamed of their history. They spoke about it matter-of-factly, like discussing the weather. After dinner, returned to his quarters. He spent hours reading more human history. Wars in ancient times, wars in medieval periods, wars with modern weapons, conflicts over resources, religion, territory, and ideology. But he also found something else. Humans had philosophers who wrote about ethics in warfare, rules about who could be attacked and who should be protected, concepts like proportional response and just war theory. They'd thought deeply about violence, created frameworks for when it was acceptable and when it wasn't. This disturbed more than the violence itself. It suggested humans didn't just fight instinctively. They analyzed it, studied it, tried to understand it. Over the next few days, explored the ship. He watched the crew work. They were efficient and professional, but he noticed things that bothered him. In the recreation room, crew members played games, strategy games, combat simulators. They competed cheerfully, trying to outwit and defeat each other for fun. The ship's entertainment library was full of violent content. Action movies where heroes fought villains, historical dramas about famous battles, even comedies often involved physical conflict. Found him in the library one day. You look troubled. I'm trying to understand, said. You're all so nice, friendly, helpful, but everything in your culture involves conflict. That's perceptive, said. She sat next to him. Humans are contradictory. We can be incredibly kind and incredibly cruel, sometimes both at the same time. We create art celebrating love and peace. We also create art celebrating warriors and battles. How do you reconcile that? We don't really, we accept it. We're complicated. We have capacity for great violence and great compassion. Our history shows both. Thought about this. Is that why you stay isolated? Because you know what you're capable of? Partly, said, but also because the galaxy made it clear they were afraid of us. After first contact, we tried to engage normally, share our culture, learn from others, but the more we shared, the more uncomfortable everyone became. What did you share that scared them? Smiled sadly. Everything, our art, our history, our philosophy. Humans are very open about who we are. We don't hide our past. We're proud of what we've overcome. But to species that evolved on gentle worlds, our normal seems extreme. What's Earth like? Asked. You'll see soon enough. We're 3 days out now. Stood to leave. Prepare yourself. Earth isn't what you expect. It's beautiful, but you'll understand why the galaxy decided to keep its distance. That night dreamed of wars. Millions of humans fighting across continents, cities burning, weapons that could end all life. He woke up sweating. Captain found him in the observation deck the next morning. Couldn't sleep. I had nightmares about your wars. I'm sorry, it's a lot to process. Stood next to him, looking out at the stars. You're wondering if you made the right choice, coming here. Yes. That's normal. Most humans have the same doubts when they learn our full history. We wonder if we're monsters, if we deserve to survive. Was quiet for a moment. But here's what I believe. Humans are neither good nor evil. We're capable of both. What matters is what we choose. What do you choose? Asked. Peace, cooperation, building instead of destroying, turned to face him. But we never forget what we're capable of. That knowledge keeps us honest. It reminds us that peace isn't natural for us. It's a choice we make every day. The ship's computer announced they were approaching the boundary of human space. Felt his heart beat faster. "Welcome to our territory," he said. "Tomorrow you'll see Earth, and you'll understand why the maps end here." Earth appeared on the view screen like a blue jewel floating in darkness. Had seen thousands of planets in his work as a cartographer, but this one looked different. The blue was so vibrant. White clouds swirled across the surface. He could see green and brown landmasses beneath. "It's beautiful," he whispered. "Most people say that first," Captain said. "Then they see the rest." As the ship moved closer, notice the orbital structures. Not just satellites and stations, defense platforms, weapons systems. Hundreds of them, maybe thousands. They formed rings around the planet, watching silently. "You have a lot of defenses," said. "We've had them for almost 300 years, since first contact," pointed at one of the platforms. "That one can track and destroy 1,000 targets simultaneously. The one next to it can shoot projectiles at near light speed. We don't hide our capabilities." "Who are you defending against?" "Everyone, no one, it doesn't matter." His voice was calm. "Humans learned a long time ago that being unprepared invites aggression, so we prepare." The ship descended toward the surface. Watched cities appear below. They were huge, sprawling across vast areas. Millions of humans living in close proximity. He'd never seen settlements so dense. "We're landing near Geneva," explained. "It's one of our diplomatic centers. You'll meet some government representatives. Then we'll tour some historical sites." The landing pad was busy. Humans moved around with purpose, loading and unloading cargo. Everyone nodded respectfully at Captain as they passed. A woman waited at the base of the ramp. She was older, with hair and sharp eyes. "Captain, welcome back, and this must be our guest." "Ambassador Sumi, this is the cartographer I told you about." Sumi shook's hand. Her grip was firm. "Welcome to Earth. You're making history today. First non-human visitor in a very long time." "Why?" asked. "Why don't you allow visitors?" "We do allow them," Sumi said as they walked into the building. "We've extended invitations countless times. No one accepts. They're afraid." "Of what?" "You're about to find out." The building was modern and comfortable. Art hung on the walls. Noticed many of the paintings showed battles, warriors in armor, ships at sea firing cannons, soldiers in trenches. "You display war art in a diplomatic building?" he asked. "We display all kinds of art," Sumi said. "War is part of our history. We don't hide it." She led him to a conference room. A large screen covered one wall. Sumi activated it, showing what looked like a presentation. "When humanity made first contact 287 years ago, we were excited. We'd always wondered if we were alone in the universe. Discovering we weren't was the most important moment in our history." Images appeared on the screen. Humans meeting various alien species. Everyone looked happy and curious. "We sent delegations to other worlds. We invited aliens to visit Earth. We wanted to learn everything, share everything, be part of the galactic community." More images. Humans giving presentations. Aliens touring human cities. Cultural exchanges. "But something went wrong," said. "Yes," Sumi's expression became sad. "We were too open, too honest. We shared our art, our history, our philosophy. We thought we were being welcoming. We didn't realize how different we were from everyone else." The screen showed a document. Recognized it as the same report he'd found in the archives. Ambassador's request for extraction. "The delegation visited for 6 months," Sumi continued. "They toured our museums, they read our books, they watched our entertainment, and they became terrified." "What did they see?" "Everything. They saw museums full of weapons from every era of human history. Swords, Guns, bombs, missiles. We have entire buildings dedicated to studying warfare. Why would you build such things? To remember, Sumi said simply. To understand, to ensure we never forget what we're capable of. She changed the screen. It showed a human classroom. Children sat at desks watching their teacher. This is a normal school. The children are 12 years old. Do you know what they're learning? Shook his head. History, specifically, they're learning about World War II, a conflict that killed over 70 million humans. We teach every child about it, the causes, the battles, the horror of it, the lessons we learned. Felt sick, you teach children about mass death. We teach them about the consequences of hatred and fear, about what happens when good people stay silent, about the cost of freedom. Sumi's voice was firm. Is it pleasant? No, but it's necessary. How can we expect the next generation to build a better world if they don't understand what the old world did wrong? The screen changed again. This time it showed human entertainment, action movies, war documentaries, video games where players fought enemies. Humans consume violent media for recreation, Sumi said. We write stories about conflicts. We make games where people compete against each other. We create art celebrating warriors and heroes who fought for their beliefs. That's disturbing, admitted. I understand. Sumi turned off the screen. To species that evolved on peaceful worlds, we seem obsessed with violence. But you need to understand context. Earth isn't a peaceful world. Never has been. She gestured for him to follow. They left the building and walked outside. A park stretched before them, green and beautiful. Humans relaxed on the grass. Children played near a fountain. This looks peaceful, said. It is, now, but this park sits on land where armies once clashed. Thousands died here centuries ago. Sumi walked slowly, her hands behind her back. Every beautiful place on Earth has a violent history. We built our civilization on battlefields. We created peace from war. They walked in silence for a while, tried to process everything. The beauty around him seemed false now, hiding darkness underneath. What happened after the aliens visited? He asked. The Galactic Council held an emergency session. Every species that had interacted with us sent representatives. They discussed what to do about humanity. They discussed exterminating you. Some suggested it. Most thought it was too risky. We were already developing advanced weapons. We had spread to multiple star systems. Attacking us might trigger exactly the kind of response they feared. So they isolated you instead. Yes, they voted to establish what they called the Sol Quarantine Protocol. All human space was declared off-limits. No trade routes would be established. No cultural exchanges. No diplomatic missions beyond basic communication. That seems cruel. Sumi smiled without humor. They thought it was mercy. They convinced themselves they were protecting the galaxy from us and protecting us from ourselves. They reached a large building with white columns. This is the Museum of Human Civilization. I want to show you something. Inside, the museum was enormous. Exhibits stretched in every direction. Saw artifacts from human history, ancient tools, weapons from every era, art and science and culture all mixed together. Sumi led him to a specific exhibit. It showed the development of human weapons technology, starting with sharpened stones, moving through bronze and iron, gunpowder, industrialization, nuclear weapons. This is what scared them most, Sumi said. We went from hitting each other with rocks to splitting atoms in just 10,000 years. That's incredibly fast. Most species take 100,000 years to reach that level of technology. Why so fast? Because we had to. Earth is harsh. It has extreme weather, dangerous animals, limited resources. Humans evolved under constant pressure. We learned to innovate or die. That drive never left us. Studied the exhibit. Each weapon was more terrible than the last. He saw descriptions of battles, casualty counts, tactical innovations. And you study this, analyze it, try to understand it. Yes, humans are unique in that way. We don't just fight, we think about fighting. We create theories and strategies. We write books about military philosophy. We teach courses on the ethics of warfare. That's horrifying. Is it? Sumi challenged. Is it better to fight without thinking, to kill without understanding? We chose to confront what we are, to examine our capacity for violence and try to control it. They moved to another exhibit. This one showed human philosophy, books and documents discussing peace, justice, and morality. We didn't just think about how to fight, Sumi said. We thought about why we fight, when it's justified, when it's not. We created rules for ourselves. Read some of the displays, concepts like just war theory and rules of engagement. Humans had literally created frameworks for conducting violence ethically. You have ethics for warfare? He asked incredulously. Of course. If we're going to fight, we should do it with honor, protect civilians, treat prisoners humanely, use proportional force. These rules exist because humans understand we're capable of terrible things. The rules keep us from becoming monsters. But the rules imply you've thought about breaking them. Yes, Sumi said quietly. That's what scares the galaxy, not that we fight. Everyone fights eventually, but that we've thought so deeply about it. We've optimized it. We've turned violence into a science. They left the museum as the sun began to set. Earth's sky turned orange and pink. It was beautiful. Tomorrow I'll show you more, Sumi said. Our military academies, our defense networks, our technology centers, you'll see everything. But tonight I want you to walk around the city, talk to people, see how we live. Why are you showing me all this? Asked. Why be so open about your capabilities? Because you asked to know the truth, and because someone needs to understand. Sumi looked up at the darkening sky. The galaxy isolated us out of fear, but fear born from ignorance is dangerous. I'd rather you understand what we are. Then you can make an informed decision about whether we deserve that isolation. That evening walked through Geneva's streets. Humans nodded at him politely. Some looked curious, but no one bothered him. He saw families eating dinner together, couples walking hand in hand, children laughing. They seemed so normal, so peaceful. But now he knew the truth beneath the surface. Every human here was descended from warriors. Everyone carried the genetic legacy of survivors who fought and killed to pass on their genes. They were educated about violence from childhood. They thought about conflict the way other species thought about mathematics. And they'd built all of this peaceful, beautiful civilization. Despite everything they were capable of, they chose peace. Didn't know if that made them better or worse. Ambassador Sumi met at his hotel the next morning. She looked professional in a dark suit, but her expression was serious. Today will be difficult, she said. I'm going to show you classified information, things the galaxy has never seen. After this, you'll understand exactly why we're isolated. They drove through the city in a quiet vehicle, watched humans going about their morning routines. Everything seemed so ordinary. Can I ask you something personal? Said. Of course. Were you a soldier? Sumi smiled. Yes, I served in the defense forces for 20 years before becoming a diplomat. Most of our government leaders have military experience. It helps us remember the cost of conflict. They arrived at a secure facility outside the city. Guards checked their identification carefully. The building was underground, hidden beneath normal-looking structures. Inside, they entered a large room with screens covering the walls. Several humans worked at consoles, monitoring data. This is one of our strategic command centers, Sumi explained. We have dozens like it across human space. From here, we coordinate our defense networks. She activated a large screen. It showed a map of human territory. Hundreds of systems, connected by trade routes and communication networks. After first contact, we had a choice. We could disarm, show the galaxy we were peaceful, or we could prepare for the worst. We chose preparation. The screen changed, showing specifications for various defense systems, weapons platforms, shield generators, automated defense drones. Some of this technology is based on alien designs we saw during first contact, but most of it is purely human innovation. We took what we learned and improved it. You weaponized alien technology, asked. We optimized it, made it more efficient, more effective. Sumi's voice held no apology. That's what humans do. We see a problem and solve it. Defense is just another problem. She brought up another display. This one showed battle simulations. Humans fighting against various alien ship designs. In every simulation, the humans won. We've run millions of scenarios, fighting every known species, combinations of species, situations we haven't even encountered yet. We prepare for everything. That's paranoid. That's survival. Sumi turned to face him. Let me explain something about human psychology. We evolved as prey animals. Yes, we eventually became hunters, but for millions of years we were hunted. That fear never left us. We always expect danger, always prepare for attack. It's in our genes. She activated another screen. It showed historical documents from the period just after first contact. These are the sealed records, what really happened during cultural exchange. Leaned forward, reading carefully. The documents detailed meetings between human and alien representatives. At first, everything went well. Aliens visited Earth. They were impressed by human technology and art. They thought humans would be valuable members of the galactic community. Then the aliens started seeing human entertainment, war movies, historical documentaries, combat sports. They watched humans compete aggressively in everything from business to games to academic achievement. They read human philosophy, books about strategy and tactics written thousands of years ago that were still studied in schools, texts about the nature of conflict and competition. They visited military academies and saw young humans training in strategy, ethics, and combat, learning about historical battles the way other species learned mathematics. One report from a Trill communion delegate stood out. The Trill were peaceful beings, never having experienced war in their entire history. The delegate wrote, I attended a human military graduation ceremony. Young soldiers took an oath to protect their people and uphold ethical standards even in combat. The ceremony was beautiful and terrifying. These warriors have rules. They've thought deeply about when killing is acceptable. This means they've thought about unacceptable killing too. What species studies ethics of violence unless they're intimately familiar with violence itself? Another report from a scholar visited Human Children's Museum, saw educational exhibits teaching young ones about ancient battles. Children play with toy soldiers, read stories about heroes who fought and died. They're raised celebrating warriors. This is not a species that has moved beyond violence. They've simply contained it. The galaxy realized something, Sumi said softly. We weren't like other species who evolved past their violent phase. We were violent species who chose peace while maintaining our capacity for violence. That scared them more than species who were still openly aggressive. Why? Because aggressive species are predictable. You know they'll fight. You can prepare for them. But humans, we could be peaceful neighbors for centuries, then switch to total war in moments if we felt threatened. That unpredictability frightened everyone. Sumi opened another file. The Galactic Council held 3 emergency sessions. The debates are fascinating. Read the transcripts. Species argued about what to do with humanity. Some wanted to establish trade relationships despite concerns. Others wanted humanity contained. A few suggested preemptive strikes, but those voices were quickly silenced. One ambassador from an ancient species called the deciding argument. We cannot eliminate humanity. They're too spread out, too well defended. We cannot integrate them. Their culture will contaminate ours, make us think like them. Our children will watch their violent entertainment and learn their competitive ways. The only option is isolation. We draw a line and declare, beyond this point lies humanity. May the stars have mercy on anyone who crosses it. The vote was unanimous, isolation. They were afraid we'd change them, said slowly. Yes, and they were right to be afraid. Sumi closed the files. Humans are contagious. Our way of thinking spreads. Our competitive drive, our innovation, our willingness to question everything. If we'd integrated into galactic society within a few generations, alien children would be asking uncomfortable questions. Why don't we have competitive sports? Why don't we study our history of conflicts? Why don't we prepare for threats? Would that be so bad? The galaxy thought so. They'd achieved peace by forgetting their violent pasts, by choosing not to think about conflict. We achieved peace by understanding conflict completely. Two opposite philosophies. They feared ours would destroy theirs. They left the command center and drove to another location. This was a military academy, similar to the ones mentioned in the reports. Young humans in uniforms walked between buildings. They looked disciplined and serious, but they also laughed and joked with each other. This is where we train our officers, Sumi said. They study strategy, logistics, ethics, history, and philosophy. We want them to understand not just how to fight, but why we fight and when we shouldn't. They observed a class in session. An instructor taught students about historical conflicts, analyzing what went wrong and what went right. The students asked sharp questions, challenging assumptions. Your soldiers are educated, observed. Of course, an uneducated soldier is just a weapon. We want ours to think, to make moral choices under pressure, to understand consequences. They visited the Academy's library. Thousands of books about warfare, strategy, and military history, but also books about peace, diplomacy, and conflict resolution. We study both sides, Sumi explained. How to fight and how to avoid fighting. Most humans hope they never need to use their military training, but they're glad they have it. A young soldier approached them. She saluted Sumi respectfully. Ambassador, is this our guest from the Concordance? Yes, this is younger sister. She's a tactical officer in training. Smiled at, my sister told me about you. You wanted to know why the maps end at our borders. I'm learning, said. It's because we scare people, said bluntly. Not because we're cruel or aggressive, but because we're competent at violence, and competence is scarier than malice. Why? Because malice can be reasoned with, changed, but competence is permanent. We'll always know how to fight, we'll always be good at it. That knowledge can't be unlearned. She excused herself and returned to her studies. Sumi led to a quiet garden on the academy grounds. There's one more thing you need to understand, Sumi said. The real reason the galaxy fears us. What's that? It's not just that we're violent, or that we study violence. It's that we're creative about it. Humans innovate constantly. We see a problem and find 10 different solutions. If we ever decided to use that creativity for war. She trailed off but understood. Humans would revolutionize warfare itself, make it more efficient, more effective, more terrible. But you choose not to, he said. We choose not to, Sumi agreed. We stay in our space, we defend our borders, we live peacefully, but the capability is always there, and the galaxy knows it. That evening, Sumi took to meet one more person, an elderly man named who lived in a quiet house overlooking mountains. Was part of the original first contact team, Sumi explained. He was there when everything fell apart. The old man served them tea in a traditional ceremony. He moved slowly, carefully, with great attention to detail. You want to know about the isolation, said. It wasn't a question. Yes, sir. We were so excited, so hopeful. We thought we'd finally found our place in the universe. Then we saw the fear in their eyes, sipped his tea. We tried to change to be what they wanted, but we couldn't change what we were, so we accepted it. Do you regret it, being isolated? Sometimes, but I understand their decision. We are what we are, a species that evolved fighting for survival, that created beauty and horror in equal measure, that thinks about violence the way others think about art. Are you dangerous? Smiled, that's the question, isn't it? Are humans dangerous? Yes, absolutely. We're one of the most dangerous species in the galaxy, but dangerous doesn't mean hostile. A trained warrior is dangerous. But is he a threat? Only if you attack him. What if someone does attack? The old man's expression grew cold. Then they'll learn why the maps end at our borders, and why no one dares to ask why. Left Earth the next day. His mind was full of everything he'd seen and learned. Captain piloted him back to the Concordance station. "What will you tell them?" asked. "The truth," said, "that humanity isn't hostile, but that the isolation should remain." "Why?" "Because the galaxy isn't ready for you. Maybe someday, but not yet." Nodded slowly. "That's probably wise." When arrived back at the station, he submitted his report. He recommended keeping the boundary unchanged. He explained what he'd learned without revealing classified details. The Galactic Council accepted his recommendation without debate. No one wanted to discuss it further. The maps remained blank where human territory began. And that was fine with everyone. 3 months passed. Returned to his normal work, updating star charts and mapping new discoveries. He tried to forget what he'd seen on Earth, but he couldn't. Sometimes he'd look at the blank space on the maps and remember. The defense platforms orbiting Earth, the military academies, the museums full of weapons, the children learning about wars their ancestors fought. He understood now why the boundary existed. Humans were different, not evil, just different. And the galaxy had decided that difference was too dangerous to engage with. Life continued as normal, until the day everything changed. Was working late when alarms started blaring throughout the station. Emergency lights flashed. His supervisor rushed past, all 6 legs moving frantically. "What's happening?" called out. "The hegemony. They've declared war on the Concordance. Their fleet is moving through the outer systems." Stomach dropped. He'd heard of they were a new military power, aggressive and expansionist. They'd been conquering smaller species for years, but no one had stopped them. Over the next few days, news got worse. The fleet was massive, 10,000 warships. They crushed resistance easily. The Concordance forces were scattered, disorganized, and no match for the disciplined military. The Concordance Council held emergency meetings. They debated strategies, sent diplomatic messages. Nothing worked. They weren't interested in negotiation. Monitored the fleet's progress with growing dread. They were moving through space systematically, conquering system after system, and their path would eventually take them near human territory. One evening he received a message. It was from Captain. "I hope you're safe. I'm sure you've heard about the situation. I wanted you to know that we've been monitoring it. If the fleet approaches human space, we will defend our borders. I suggest your people evacuate any stations near the boundary. Things are about to get messy." Immediately went to the council chambers. He requested an emergency audience. When they finally saw him, he showed them's message. "The humans are warning us," he said. "They say to evacuate the border regions." A council member, a floating being from the Pallor species, spoke dismissively. "The humans have isolated themselves for centuries. They have no interest in galactic affairs. This warning is meaningless." "No," insisted. "You don't understand. I've been to Earth. I've seen their capabilities. If they attack them, the humans will respond, and you don't want to be nearby when that happens." "One species cannot defeat the fleet," another council member said. 10,000 warships. The hegemony has conquered 40 systems. What makes you think a few human vessels could stop them? Because I've seen how humans think about warfare. They don't fight like us. They innovate, they optimize. They've been preparing for threats for 300 years. But the Council didn't listen. They dismissed warnings as exaggeration. They believed they would avoid human space just like everyone else did. They were wrong. 2 weeks later, the hegemony made a fatal mistake. Their strategic command looked at the galactic maps and saw a large blank area marked human territory. The Emperor, a being named, made an announcement. This blank space represents unclaimed territory. We will expand into it and establish colonies. Any resistance will be crushed. Warning messages flooded out from human space. They were simple and direct. Do not approach human territory. You will be stopped. Laughed at the warnings. One species threatens the might of the hegemony. We have conquered 40 worlds. We will take theirs too. The fleet changed course. 10,000 warships, the largest military force ever assembled in this region of the galaxy, moved toward human space. Watched helplessly as the fleet approached the boundary. He sent messages to Captain begging for information. His response was brief. Stay away from the border, monitor from a distance, record everything. The galaxy needs to see this. The Concordance sent observation drones to watch. If they successfully invaded human space, it would change everything. The isolation would end. Humanity would be conquered or absorbed into the hegemony. But knew something the Council didn't. He'd seen the defense networks, the strategic planning, the centuries of preparation. Humans hadn't been sitting idly behind their borders. They'd been waiting. The fleet crossed into human space, confident and aggressive. Their ships were powerful, their weapons advanced. Sent a message to Earth demanding immediate surrender. The human response came from a woman recognized, Ambassador Sumi. Her message was cold and formal. You have violated our territory. You have ignored multiple warnings. You have threatened our people. This is your final chance. Turn back now or face the consequences. Responded with mockery. 3 human ships face our fleet of 10,000. Your arrogance will be remembered as the reason for your extinction. 3 ships. That's all humanity sent to meet the fleet. 3 vessels against 10,000. The battle began and ended 11 minutes later. Watched the recordings later, his hands shaking. The observation drones had captured everything. The 3 human ships moved with impossible precision. They didn't fight like any species in the galaxy. They didn't engage in traditional ship-to-ship combat. They didn't even seem concerned with the overwhelming numbers they faced. Instead, they demonstrated something terrifying. Humans had weaponized mathematics. The first human ship released thousands of small drones. They scattered through the formation, calculating trajectories and positions. Within seconds, they'd mapped every ship in the fleet. The second human ship fired. Not lasers or missiles, something else. Projectiles moving at near-light speed, so fast they were almost invisible. But they weren't aimed randomly. Each projectile had been calculated to pass through multiple ships, using the first explosion to adjust trajectory for the next target. One shot, 800 ships destroyed. The third human ship did something worse. It disrupted the communication network with some kind of electronic warfare system. Suddenly, 10,000 ships couldn't coordinate with each other. They were scattered, confused, helpless. Then the 3 human ships attacked systematically. They moved through the formation like surgeons, cutting apart the fleet with mathematical precision. They targeted command ships first, then supply vessels, then weapons platforms. They tried to fight back. Their weapons hit the human ships repeatedly, but the human shields held. Their armor deflected damage that should have been fatal. Sent desperate messages, ordering retreat, but his communications were jammed. His orders never reached most of his fleet. 11 minutes. That's how long it took for humanity to destroy the largest military force in the region. Not damage it, not repel it, destroy it completely. When it was over, 3 human ships remained, undamaged, waiting. The observation drones recorded the final moments, escape pods floating in space, wreckage scattered across light years, and those 3 human ships, silent and still, like predators watching their territory. Then a transmission from the lead ship, captain's voice calm and professional to all Concordance observers. The hegemony violated human space. We responded proportionally. Any surviving vessels are free to leave. We will not pursue beyond our borders, but understand this clearly, we will not tolerate further incursions. Tell your people, tell everyone. The boundary exists for a reason. The recording spread throughout the galaxy within hours. Every species saw what happened, the efficiency, the precision, the complete dominance. Fear spread faster than the recordings. The Concordance Council held an emergency session, attended as a witness. Council members who had dismissed his warnings now looked terrified. They weren't even trying, one member whispered. 3 ships, just 3, and they destroyed 10,000 like it was nothing. Another council member, visibly shaking, asked the question everyone was thinking. What if they'd sent 100 ships? What if they'd sent 1,000? What are humans capable of if they're actually trying? No one wanted to answer. Ambassador Sumi appeared on the communication screen. She looked tired but composed. Members of the Galactic Concordance, I apologize for the violence you witnessed. We take no pleasure in what happened, but we warned them repeatedly. They chose to ignore those warnings. You destroyed them, a council member said, completely. We defended our territory, Sumi corrected. We used proportional force. We could have pursued their remaining forces. We could have invaded their home worlds. We did not. We stopped at our borders as we always have. Proportional, the council member sounded hysterical. You call that proportional? Yes, they sent 10,000 ships to conquer us. We sent 3 to stop them. That seems proportional to me. Sumi's expression hardened. You isolated us 3 centuries ago because you feared what we might do if involved in galactic conflicts. Today proved your fears were justified. This is what happens when humans fight. This is why we stay behind our borders. This is why the maps end at our territory. She paused, letting her words sink in. We are not your enemies. We have never attacked unprovoked. We have never expanded beyond our agreed borders. We simply ask to be left alone, and in return we leave you alone. They forgot this simple arrangement. They paid the price. What about the surviving? Someone asked. They're free to leave. We've already released their escape pods and disabled ships beyond our boundary. What happens to them is not our concern. We're not conquerors. We're defenders. The communication ended. The council sat in stunned silence. Finally spoke, I tried to warn you, humans aren't like us. They don't fight the way we do. They've spent 300 years preparing for every possible threat. They've optimized warfare into a science. And they did all of this while choosing peace. What do we do? A council member asked helplessly. Nothing, said. We do exactly what we've been doing. We leave them alone. We maintain the boundary. We ensure no one else makes this mistake. In the weeks that followed, the galaxy changed. The hegemony collapsed without its fleet. Other aggressive species quietly backed away from expansion plans. Everyone remembered the recordings. 3 ships, 11 minutes. The maps remained unchanged. The human territory stayed blank, but now everyone knew why. Received one final message from Captain. I hope the galaxy understands now. We don't want war. We don't want conquest. We just want to live in peace. But peace requires strength. The boundary protects both sides, your people from us and us from having to become what we're capable of being. Thought about that message for a long time. Humans had demonstrated their capability, but they'd also demonstrated their restraint. They destroyed a fleet that threatened them, then stopped. They could have continued, could have carved out an empire, could have ruled the galaxy. But they chose not to. That choice, realized, was the most terrifying thing about humanity. They had the power to dominate everyone, the intelligence to do it efficiently, the will to see it through. And they chose peace instead. Not because they couldn't conquer, but because they decided not to. That made them more dangerous than any warlike species, because you could never be sure what humans would choose next time. Would they remain peaceful, or would they decide the galaxy needed to change? No one wanted to find out. So the boundary held, the maps remained blank, and humanity stayed behind their borders watching silently. And the galaxy learned an important lesson. The scariest monsters are the ones who choose not to be monsters. Updated his charts one final time. Where human territory began, he added a small note in the database, not visible to anyone using the maps for navigation, just a personal reminder. Here be humans, we asked why once, now we know, never ask again. He saved the file and returned to his work. The galaxy was vast. There were millions of stars to chart, endless space to explore. Just not in that direction. Never in that direction. The maps ended at human territory, and finally everyone understood why.